Welcome back to Behind the Tune, everyone. I'm glad to have you back listening and watching. Before we get into today's episode, make sure, as usual, to like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. And if you're on Spotify, make sure you rate the episode and share it around with all your friends. Now, on today's episode, we have someone whose presence is very known, especially down in Melbourne. And legend has it, this man has a third lung with his crazy energy on stage. Welcome to the podcast, Only With You.
How you doing, man? Thank you for having me.
Let's address that comment that I made. A third lung. Yeah. Because obviously anyone that's familiar with your Beyond the Valley set, anyone that I've talked to has literally said that they don't know how you stay standing after a set.
Bro, you're telling me, bro. Like, sometimes I get off the decks and it feels like I've just done like 2 hours of Zumba, bro. Like, it's wild. I've gotten a lot more fit over the past year of just DJing again and again. Like, I'm not a very physical person, but DJing and like performing, I've been able to use it as exercise. And now, bro, it's weird. Like when I first started and I'd like jump around a bit, sometimes I'd be like, whoa, I'm feeling a bit tight in the chest, bro. Now I could do it for like 4 hours straight. It's fucked. I just like zone out, just hit it. It's wild. Don't get me wrong. I'm still like minorly asthmatic. Shit, dude! I had this crazy moment. It was for the BTV pre-show. At XA54. This was like December the 23rd, 24th. And halfway through my set, I felt my chest tighten up and I'm like, no way. Like, I'm like, this is the first time I've ever felt any asthma symptoms like during a DJ set. And I was like, fuck. So I started looking through my bag, like, cause I always carry an inhaler just in case. I've never had to use it before, but I was like, all my planning, bro, like it's paid off right now. And Fraser, like Telefixer, was behind the decks and he goes, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm looking for my ventilator, just give me a second. And I jumped down behind the decks, just went, pump back up. Good as new, bro. It was great. Bro, it was actually exhilarating. I'm not gonna lie. Like that feeling of like, oh shit, I could actually be in danger right now while I'm in front of like 1,000 people, like playing an Ollie Lichman track. Like I'm just like, fuck. Like,
did anyone get that on video?
No, well, I hope, bro. I hope that somewhere in the crowd, like someone's filming, they're like, Only With You just went under the decks to do a bump. Little do they know. I was like, they would be like, yeah, he's totally snorting under the decks. No, I'm just...
That could be an out of context. Like, yeah, that's like one of those things you see. It's like, where do you go? And you just like, come back up and just like, there's like new life.
Yeah,
it's
dude.
like, bro, he could have easily just done a bump or something.
No, it was that sweet Ventolin, my man.
How was that BTV set?
Dude.
Speaking of it.
That was wild. Like, ever since that set, like it's just been like go. Like as an experience, like I can't compare it to anything else, man. Like I've been doing this for like a really long time. I've been making music and DJing since I was about 12 years old. Like, and I'm 23 as of a week ago. Oh, fuck.
Happy birthday for a week ago.
Thank you. And bro, I've been thinking about playing a set like that like my entire life, you know, like being like a 14-year-old, like looking at photos of like fucking like Martin Garrix and shit, you know, like yeah, Tomorrowland, like Ultra Music Festival, and just being like, dude, one day I want to like be on a big stage like that doing this. And like it was weird, man. Like I've had a lot of people ask me like, oh, were you nervous? Or like and I was like, nah. The second
you didn't look nervous
at all.
That's
not right. Dude, the second I got up there and like I was standing behind Will Kiss while he was playing, and I just like it kind of hit me because before that point I was like, yeah, I'm playing BTV, sick, and then I was up there and the stage that we were on, like the Walters and I were playing, it was built for like 4,500 people. There was about like nearly 10,000 people.
Yeah, that stage was, I think it was only 4.5 for like that enclosed area, but then they didn't.
It went all the way up the hill
and
afterwards.
onto the side.
Yeah, bro. And like I walked up earlier in the day when Pog Boys were playing, and like I looked at it all, and I was with my mate Moose, and he's like, "How do you feel?" And I was like, "I feel great, bro." Like I was just taking it all in because like, man, I feed off the crowd, you know, and like, you know, when there's that many like bodies and souls in front of you, like you feel it, you know. It was like the most like primal kind of thing I've, you know what I mean? Because your body's like, your brain is just like, whoa, man, like all of these crazy instincts kicking you. It's like, this is fucking sick. And like the second that I hit play, like it was just like every other set I've ever played, you know. It was this weird moment where I was like, oh dude, I've done this a million times just in front of smaller crowds. Like this is no different except for the fact that there's 10 times more people here. Like,
that small detail.
Yeah, dude.
So yeah, I guess how like what was your sort of feeling throughout that set?
I kept having like these weird like inner monologue moments where I'd be like, just take all of this in, like remember how this feels. Like, bro, it was addicting, man. Like the second I got off the decks, like I just had this feeling where I'm like, how do I do that again? Like, how do I, like this next year that I've got, how can I make this so crazy that I can ensure back next year I'm back here doing this again? Because it was exhilarating, man. And being able to play like so many of my own tracks in that set as well was like so rewarding in a way. Because especially last year, like I had made a few tracks that did pretty well, and it was the first time where I was like, fuck, my production is getting like bigger than my DJing, you know? And at the end of the year, I dropped like 3 tracks in like 2 months or something, and I got to give them all a run on the stage at BTV. And it was just like that feeling, like even when you're in a nightclub, man, and you're playing one of your own tracks, like any artist will tell you, like that feeling is so electric, because it's like, dude, I made this in my fucking laptop, you know what I mean? And now I'm playing it for you punters, like, and just being there at BTV. It was when I dropped Your Love, which is one of my tracks I released last year, and I just stood there and I'm like, I'm hearing people like yell back, because I sampled Madonna in the track, so people were singing back like, you know, the original track lyrics, but it was just like, whoa, man. Got to play a bunch of my friends' tracks as well, so that was really rewarding too. And I got to close on Baron Von tracks. Finally, it happened to me, which was just a magical moment, dude. Like that was crazy. Having the whole crowd just sing back, finally it has happened to me. I was just like, wow, man.
Yeah, electric set, great stage as well.
Definitely.
Played right before Walters as well, who then just carried on.
Exactly, bro. Dude, that was such a great moment too. There's a video on my Instagram of when we switch over the decks, and like I do the big outro thing, blah, 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 and then I turn around, Walter's there, we just like hug each other, and you can kind of see it, like I say to him, I go like, what the fuck, kid? Like, rip it up. Like, because I was just like, it was such a great moment, bro. Like, I met Walters like maybe like a year, and I didn't even know it was him, right? I met him like a year and a half earlier when I was a part of a techno duo called Nama, and we were playing at Porn & Co one night, and Walters actually played after me, and I had sorry, I hit the mic, and I had no idea it was him. And then like a year later, when we just kind of met through the scene, like he was like, oh, like I actually made that note. I was like, whoa. And it was just such a crazy like full circle moment of like that, us then making Lost Found 3200, our track together, seeing how well that did, and then it's like to finish off the year at Beyond the Valley on the same block, like at the same stage together. It was just like, fuck, dude, like we did it. Like that's crazy.
Yeah, that was like the XT54 takeover, wasn't it?
Yeah, so
how'd that, yeah, sort of like what was that sort of takeover? Because I know that Beyond the Valley had those little ones. They had Gallery Rex the night before. Then they had, I think, some other stuff in between.
Yeah, there was meant to be, so funnily enough, there was actually meant to be a few other acts throughout the day that were meant to be a part of the same block of the XE takeover, but there was some shuffling with the set times. So instead of it being 4 acts in the XE takeover, it was just moved to 2. And so it was this thing where it was like, I kind of saw it as a blessing in a way, because I was happy playing that time slot. You know, I was happy doing 12 to 1.
Oh.
Well, yeah, but you know, when it was a big group for the XE takeover, there would have been different set times. But then when it got broken up to, hey, that 2 hours is the XE takeover, and we got secured in for that 12 to 2 spot, I was like, sweet. Because like that's where I'm prime. You know what I mean? I'm peak when I'm in around midnight to 1 a.m. And it was so sick, man. Like, just thinking back to it, it's crazy. Like, it's such a wild energy being up there, and I just want to do it again.
Yeah. How's sort of like the year been since then? Like, how's it been till this point now? Because would you say, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, was that like a bit of a turning point in like your sort of music career?
It's been pretty fucking wild.
Yeah.
Like it, towards the end of last year, I'd been really lucky. You know, I made The Answer, which a music is the answer edit that I released halfway through last year, and that got picked up by a bunch of huge DJs. Like, really, what started all of this for me, like what started my kind of momentum, was Trim dropping it. Like, Trim dropped The Answer on his tour. He played it in Sydney, he played it in Melbourne, and then he took it over to Europe and played it at all of these shows and posting videos online. And I was like, sweet, like I got momentum, this is awesome, blah, blah, blah. It was so wild seeing it get played out. Frank dropped it in his boiler room, you know what I mean? And I was like, fuck yeah, like this is pretty sick, like I'm going pretty well. And then everything after BTV, it was like, oh, I had nothing. Like, you know what I mean? Like all that momentum I thought I had before then, nah, like it's just nothing.
Level above now.
It was wild, man. Like, Lockie Garlic, my agent, actually said to me when I got off the decks at Beyond the Valley, he goes, I fucking hate you. I'm like, why? He's like, my emails are going to be so fucked after this. And I was like, I'm sorry, man. And then like we started the tour. Like I've been in a different state for the past 3 weeks. So
every weekend?
Yeah. So I was in I was in Perth last week, and then I'm in Sydney this week, and then I'm in Adelaide the next week.
Fuck yeah.
And I play in Melbourne on the Friday night and then fly to Adelaide on the next day. So I've been DJing a lot more than I ever had in my entire life, you know, just like weekly. Apart from when I was like a lot younger doing like bar gigs and stuff like that. Like this is the most I've had to DJ professionally. And I love it, man. It's sick. Like I love this shit. Like,
so would you say that like since BTV, everything's like your bookings have just gone crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's been awesome because there's a lot of these shows where it's like, all right, like maybe we'll look at that a little bit further down the line. You know, I now have the ability to kind of pick and choose, where before I was not happy to take anything, but I was just like, yeah, whatever, gig, sick. Where now it's like, oh, sweet, we can actually kind of siphon through this, you know, and work out like what's the sickest and what maybe to not do right now, you know?
That's sick. That's a good problem to have.
Absolutely. And that's what I'm saying, man.
Yeah. So like, how have you managed that? Because I'm sure, obviously, going from something, I'm not sure what your schedule was before BTV, but since then, obviously, now you're saying you're playing like, you know, two plus big shows a weekend. How's it been like managing all that sort of stuff?
I'd say probably one show a weekend, sometimes two.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Yeah. But even then, like, I'm happy, man. Like, it's been a massive change. Like, I was working full-time retail before Beyond the Valley. And like it was right after the Patrick Mason show that I played on March the 1st. I was able to leave my day job, and like that was crazy, man. Like that's something I've been looking to do for like 3 years, you know, like when will I be able to make it to a point where I can stop having to put 70% of my energy weekly into a fucking retail job and put it into music, you know? And it's the financial side of it, you know. It's hard being a DJ and a producer because for the most part of your career, you're not making a lot of money. You know, you only start to make money when you start to get like a lot of momentum, or you make one big track and it blows you up, you know? And so for me, I was just like waiting. And then when we got the Oz tour together, I kind of did the maths in my head and I was like, dude, like, why would I be working 5 days a week making minimal, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When like I can do one of these shows and it's like I'm covered, you know, like. And the second I kind of clocked that, it was like, all right, we're on. Like I'm leaving. I'm not doing this anymore. And dude, it has been amazing. Like the past 3 weeks, I've been maybe like a month now, I'd say it's been. I've been so creatively driven. Like before, I would get home from work and I'd just like, my social battery would be dead because I worked in a DJ store during the day. So selling, but like we didn't just do like DJ decks and stuff. We did like massive lighting rigs and like stuff for concerts, and you know, it was like hectic shit, you know? So my brain power would just be like, bruh. And also a lot of my job too would be like bartering with club owners, being like, yeah, we'll buy $5,000 of it, give us like, you know, 30% discount. Me being like, that's not how numbers work. I can't even fucking explain this to you.
It's like a sales job sort of?
Yeah, it was, sales, like point of sale the entire time.
Yeah.
And like, I love that. Like, I love talking about music stuff. I love like explaining DJ deck shit to people, but it just made it to a point where the thing that I love was also my job. And when they start to kind of collide, it gets lost in the shuffle. You know what I mean? I start to feel my love for music get tainted by my hatred for work, you know? Like,
it's like a weird in between, like
Definitely.
a weird like equilibrium, like middle point.
And people would always say, they're like, oh, your day job's working in a DJ store. That must be so sick. I'm like, you've got no idea. It has robbed my love for this art form. But now it's back, bro. Like, I feel like musically zen in a way, you know? Like I open up FL Studio and it's like I just stop thinking for 5 minutes and there's a track there. Where before, bro, I'd get home from work, I'd sit there for like an hour just starting random little ideas. And then after an hour, I'd be like, well, I hate all of this. And then I'd eat dinner, you know? And like I wouldn't produce for the rest of the night. Where now it's like I can't open my laptop without making a track. And that's, for me, that makes the difference.
Yeah. Well, I guess on the subject of creativity and creative processes, what's sort of like your, I guess, creative process for making a track? And like, I guess following on from that, we could probably touch on this later, but sort of like the sound that you've developed over the years.
Like, my process is different every time. Like for years, man, I would do the same thing. I'd open up a piano roll and I'd write some chords, you know? But when you start something the same way, you kind of end up making the same thing each time. Like I would make 2 completely different tracks, but I'd be like, thematically, they're exactly the same. Like I've just duped that, you know? And I would do that for so many years. Just, I start with the piano roll and then I have my drums. And then I realized like, damn, like a massive thing about music and creativity is like throwing yourself in the deep end and trying to work out how you swim back to shore. So now I start different every time, whether that's trying to find some weird like splice sample of like a weird drum and like putting that through like something to chop it up, or whether it's finding like a vocal sample, putting that through Shaperbox. Sometimes I go through, a big thing I've been doing recently is I go through old stuff I've made and see if I can remix it for the stuff that I'm making now. And that's given me the craziest results, because it's like I'll find a track I made like 5 years ago, like before I was Only With You, you know, before when I was making a completely different style of music, and I'll be like, all right, how could I make this something I'd release now? And dude, like that bro, it feels like I'm cheating when I do it. Like I finish these songs and I'm like I feel dirty. I'm like, I didn't even make all of this right now, you know, like I actually did the work like 4 years ago. But it's that is something that's helped me insanely, you know. A lot of the time too, I love like all different types of music, man. Like I was raised by two like very musical parents, you know, like my entire musical, what's the word I'm looking for? Like teachings background is all like 70s rock and 90s rap and like all the weird shit in the early 2000s that people were releasing, and I try and play on those influences a lot, whether it's something as simple as like taking the chords from a Beatles track and being like, all right, what if I put that in a different key, or what if I change up that chord and seeing what that propels me into. That's a huge thing I do, man. Like there's a few tracks that I've got out right now where like if you play them for me, I can tell you exactly the rock song I took the bass line from. You know what I mean? Dude, I'll give you one right now. In Music Is the Answer, there's a breakdown.
Is that on Spotify?
No, it's on SoundCloud. Because it's an edit of Music Is the Answer.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Copyright.
Yeah, dude. There's a bit in the middle where the bass changes up, and I stole that bass progression from While My Guitar Gently Weeps by the Beatles.
I don't know that song, but I will.
It's a very basic bass line, and I was just like, what if I just chuck this into the dance track?
Let's have a look. Is it in the middle?
Yeah. I'll skip exactly where it is.
There you go. What part is it?
It's the bass line, how it drops. Music. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom, boom. And it's the same progression as While My Guitar Gently Weeps. Just because I was like, that could work. And then it did. And I was like, sweet. Made a track out of like In Excess, Never Tear Us Apart the other day.
Oh, is that released? No, it's not.
No, it's not released yet. No. It will be soon though.
Okay.
And I said it to someone the other day, like, you gotta be careful with that, bro. Like, you get sued. And I'm like, no. Music, like chords in music are uncopyrightable. Oh. So there was a huge lawsuit like 4 years ago where they accused Ed Sheeran of stealing the chords for Shape of You, and it went to like the Supreme Court of like the US. People were like, and then he got off because like there's a thing where it's like, chords, they're not copyrightable because there's only a finite amount of chords in music. So at some point, all the chords are going to be used. Like, you know what I mean? If you make a chord progression, bro, 9 times out of 10, it's already been used by someone, you know? So do with that information what you will.
Literally, yeah. I guess I'm not a music head myself, so I don't understand the whole chord stuff. But
right.
it makes sense. I feel like it makes sense that there's only a finite amount of things that you can use, especially in that sense. And like, you can't really copyright that sort of stuff because it's not like the forefront of the track. Yeah, if you're using the vocals and stuff, it's like,
if you're stealing the main lead of the song, like then it's like, oh, all right, you're going down in the court of law. But like chords, you're sweet.
Yeah. That's sort of like a big thing of yours where you sort of, from what I'm understanding, is you take a lot of influence from like old school rock.
Definitely.
And then you also couple that with remixing your old unfinished tracks.
Definitely. I've been doing this so long that I try and take everything I've learned and apply it to what I have now, you know? Like that is something I am really grateful for better or worse. I have been doing this most of my life and I've learned so much stuff, and I feel like being in this industry, you can get tunnel vision really quickly. Mm-hmm. Like I feel like being a DJ and a producer, it's a job with amnesia. You know, a lot of us get even imposter syndrome from being like, oh, I don't know if I'm good enough when you're at a certain place. And then if you stop, you go like, oh, dude, no, I am that good. You know what I mean? I've been doing this for however long. I know all of these lessons. I know all of these tricks. Like to go back and use that knowledge, I feel like is really, really important. And like to touch on what you were saying, like, you know, taking a lot of influence from the styles of music that I was brought up on. A quote that I think about, like there's 2 quotes I think about a lot, right? One, I don't know who it's from, so I'm sorry I can't attribute it to you. It is, everything's already been done, but it hasn't been done by you. You know what I mean? So I make techno and trance music, and that's been done for 20 years. There's millions of people all over the globe that make techno and trance music, but I haven't done it yet. You know what I mean? So what spin can I bring to that is going to be different from the next guy, you know, and from the next guy? And the other quote that I think about a lot is an Andy Warhol quote, which is, art is whatever you can get away with. You know, so from songs that I grew up on, you know, I take that and I go like, hey, like I'm taking a piece of that song, but now it is mine. You know what I mean? Like I am now taking this thing that exists and transforming it into something of my own. And it's not like people like listen and they go like, oh, you like took the chords from that, you know? It's just like, no, this is now the track, you know? Art for the entirety, music especially for the entirety of history has all been about what came before me, how can I transform this into something else?
I mean, speaking of history, house music was just chopped up disco records.
Yeah, literally, the Amen break. They were like, this is fucking crazy. You know what I mean? Like, they were just literally like, what if we got the breakdown for the bit where James Brown doesn't sing and we just looped it? And they're like, that's fucking genius. Like, and then here we are in 2024 and I'm in Sydney just making electronic music. Like,
yeah, that's sick. You said you sort of had musical influence from your parents who are they both like musicians or they just had like a lot of musical knowledge?
My dad is like very, very, very into music, but my mum is actually like ex-pianist and a vocalist. Yeah. And she's really good as well. But both of them have like a very rich musical knowledge and stuff. Like when I was a kid, bro, like I'd say like 90% of my childhood, like when I think of memories, there is music in the background, you know? It's just something that was so intrinsic to me, you know? I was never like trained or anything. Like I didn't know, I only learned how to play the piano when I started making dance music, you know? But I always grew up with a piano in my house, you know, like for an example. But yeah, that helped like insanely, you know, like just being able, and also just like I just love like music trivia and shit, man. Like I love just like talking to my dad and being like, did you know about this fucking record that it was recorded in this studio and in the next studio these people were there and they actually had influence on the track? Like I love that shit. I love the lore of music, if that makes sense. Like
the trivial aspect of it.
Dude,
Yeah,
I'm a nerd with it. I think it's so sick.
Fuck, you should let me know. I would have
got some fast trivia facts. Yeah,
I didn't know you were a bit of
quick
trivia.
fire round. Boom. What's Prince's birthday? I'm like, I don't fucking know.
How sort of digging deeper into like how your parents influenced your current musical production, and like you said you've been doing it for 10 years, and how did sort of did you start making music by choice, or did they sort of, I guess, push you in the direction?
Not
of
at
making
all.
music?
Like my parents at no point were ever like, oh, like you should do music. You know what I mean? Like it was something that I kind of found by myself. And you know, a lot of my influence did come from my parents, but a lot of it came from me just being like a 10-year-old on the computer. You know what I mean? Like the internet, like video games, like, you know, the birth of YouTube, like that whole time of just discovering new music. Like it formed that a lot for me, you know, like even like the start of dubstep, man. Like I actually remember the first moment, like the first moment that I was really like, whoa, this is electronic music. What the fuck is this? Within 1 week, two things happened. The first was I was in the car with my dad, and this was in 2011, and Avicii Levels came on the radio.
Track.
And I was just like, what the fuck? Like, what is this? This is before Shazam as well, right? So I'm like, oh my God, like, looking it up. Oh, sometimes I get a good feeling. And it came up with the Flow Rider track that sampled the same thing. And I'm like, what is this song, man? And then within that same week, I was at my friend Matthew's house, and he showed me Skrillex. Oh my God, I think it was his remix of In For The Kill. I think it was that track. It's a very famous early Skrillex track.
I probably have heard it, I just don't remember it.
And I was just like, what is this? And overnight I was infatuated, man.
Wow.
Like on YouTube doing deep dives, like learning about Afrojack, Avicii, Skrillex. Like, bro, you know how James has that tattoo of the Clubbers Guide 2000? I want to get the track list for Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites by Skrillex down my back. Is like, that album is like so A1. Like, bro, this was back when you had to buy songs on iTunes, you know what I mean? Like, when that album dropped, I was there like, whoa, I bought it on iTunes. I would just sit there like listening to it at school, like all of that music like heavily shaped me. But I didn't make music at that time, right? Like when I started DJing, I actually got really lucky, right? So I was really into this stuff, but I didn't really have an avenue to pursue it. And I didn't grow up with a lot of money either, and DJ stuff's expensive, bro. Like it was it's, you know, especially when you're a young kid trying to be like, Mom, Dad, I want to do this. They're like, nah, you know what I mean? So it wasn't even in my brain. And I have a friend called Tom, right? And like we would kick it together all the time in like year 5, like year 6. And he had a DJ deck. Oh, maybe it was year 4, year 5, around that time. Sorry, my brain, I've been in clubs for 2 years straight. It's not going very well, my brain. But he got a DJ deck for Christmas one year, and I would go over to his place all the time, and I'd just be fucking glued to this thing, man. I'd be like, whoa, probably like 4 months straight. I just always, like, we'd be together, and I'd be like, can I whip out the DJ deck? He'd be like, sure. Blah, blah, blah. It was only a small one. Like, it was a little controller, like, hooked up to his MacBook. And then, like, he was playing PlayStation one day, and I was just like, beaming away on it, and he just turns to me and goes, do you want to just fucking have it? Like, he was like, do you just want it, bro? And I was like, oh, yeah? Like, what the fuck? So I bought it home. Bro, I probably spent 3 months in my garage.
Oh, really?
Every day after. I was glued to it, man. It overcame me. Like, I was just like, I fucking love this. Like,
how old are you at this point?
13?
Oh,
only just, probably, yeah.
What were you mixing?
Dude, crazy. So when I started out, it was all like Martin Garrix and like, you know,
like EDM.
Yeah, super duper EDM, bro. Like I started DJing the summer that Timmy Trumpet's Freaks got big. You know what I mean? Wow. Like, so that's what it's that era of stuff. And especially like a lot of the stuff that I was playing around then, like especially like the Martin Garrix, the Alesso, the kind of even like the Avicii stuff to a certain point, Oliver Heldens as well, like early Oliver Heldens. You can still hear all of that in my sound, bro. Like you can listen to an OnlyWithYou track today, especially like the EP that I'm about to come out with. A lot of that that EDM influence is really heavy in it. You know, it's still techno and trance, but I do take liberties with the big melodic breakdowns and the big like super saw chords, big build up, stuff like that, because I love that shit, man. Like all of that music is super cheese now, and I can see that, but there's certain elements of it that I think are so powerful, you know, like having a big melodic breakdown. Like a thing that I like to focus on a lot with DJing especially is like, how is the crowd going to react to this? So when I'm making a song, I'm producing it going, what's going to happen in this moment? Like for this build up, how do I make sure that it's so fucking wild that the crowd is losing their shit? How long do I make this breakdown before it's going to get boring? Fuck,
is that when you're DJing or producing?
When I'm producing for DJing.
Oh, producing for DJing,
so
yeah.
I'm making the track for the club. So even though a lot of the time I'm kind of making like an EDM-y techno track, it reads as a techno track because I produced it like that. You know, it's structured like a techno track. There's nothing too invasive about it. You know what I mean? So yeah, back to what I was saying. Sorry, I go on little tangents. I might happen a bit.
We need to note them down so we can get back to them.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I've got the mental note. I'm like, yeah. So then we talk about that, and then you go all the way back. Like,
yeah, that's fine.
And then it was 2014. It was either 2014 or 2015, and this was like the moment I decided like I'm doing this for the rest of my life. It was right when live streams started on YouTube. Like, remember when they first brought in live streams? Like, they didn't have it before then. At around 2014, 2015, it was like the first time they're like, hey, we've got YouTube Live now. So all of these music festivals were like, oh, we can just live stream our sets. So like every time you'd open up YouTube, there'd just be like 8 live streams at the front of the homepage. Like, that was how popular it was.
I don't remember that. Eh?
It was 2014, 2015, around that time, and it was when Ultra Music Festival was happening. And I just saw like Martin Garrix, UMF, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, sweet, I know him. He's the guy that made Animals. So I click on the thing, and bro, he was like 17 at this point.
He's like, still very young.
He's still very young.
He's like 27 or something.
To think that he's like only like 4 years older than me makes me so depressed.
Yeah, but like I remember when he first came up, I was like, this guy is like my this guy's like my age. Definitely. Like, he's my generation. But I look at him now, I'm like, how long has this guy been doing this shit for?
Exactly, man.
And he's like not even 30 yet.
He was also ghost producing for ages when he was a kid. He was making songs for other DJs.
Oh, really?
That now that he's got famous, he's actually come out and been like, yeah, I made that song, I made that song, I made that song. It's like, he was, bro, the Dutch, man, they're built differently. Like, they start producing like the second they're born. And then by age 11, they're making tracks for David Guetta. Like, it's fucked. Anyways, I clicked on the live stream, and like I'm looking at this kid. He's only like 4 years older than me, and I'm sitting there in my room in Australia on my fucking laptop, and I'm just like, what the fuck? And it was at about the 11-minute mark, I think, because I've rewatched this again and again, and I've been
to
like,
this day?
people, yeah, no, just that moment that I clicked on the live stream, because it was such a shift in my life. Like, I saw this, and I was like, it just came over me. He was playing one of his tracks, Wizard. and he was doing the build up and he mashed it up with another one of his tracks, Helicopter, and he chopped out the first one and then had the vocal shot of the second track, and it just pops off and the crowd and the camera pans around this crowd. And like, dude, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it because it was so intense. Like, this feeling just like washed over me, and just in my brain I was just like, I don't know what I have to do, but I like, that is what I want to do. Like, whatever this kid is doing right here, like, this is electric. Like, this is, man, it was overwhelming, you know? And so, yeah, ever since then, I've just been like, no matter what it takes, no matter, you know, how much time I need to give to it, like, I want to do this for the rest of my life, man. I remember when I was really young, like, both of my parents would say, you know, if you find a job you love, you'll never work a day in your life, you know? And since my career started to pick up like this, that's exactly how it's felt, you know? It's like, I just feel so lucky and grateful to be able to be making this stuff happen now, and to be able to like tour around Australia, bro. Like, that's fucked. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
it's like unexplainable.
Yeah,
words can't describe it.
And it's fucked because it's like I've been thinking about that shit since I was so young, bro. And just to be doing it now, it's like fuck. But when you're in it, it gets so stressful. Like, it's literally like, oh, now it counts. Before it was like, I just made music and like I press buttons and I shake my ass. Yeah. And now it's like, fuck, this set's got to bang. You know what I mean? Like, every time I've got a gig, I'm like, nah. Got to pull it out of a hat tonight. Every time I'm making a track, which for better or worse, I sit there and I be like, is this better than what I've already released? You know, it's no longer just fuck around and find out. It's like, I'm doing it for a purpose.
Yeah, right.
And I love that because pressure makes diamonds, man. And the more that this pressure has kind of got on me to have to be good, I've just ridden it. You know what I mean? I've just gone, yep, take it and just go.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, I didn't know Martin Garrix was sort of like your...
He was, yeah, definitely early in my career. Like, not, like, the second that I really got into the club scene, I wasn't into that stuff anymore. Like, I got really lucky. I had a really good fake ID when I was young. So, it's statute of limitations, bro. They can't get me now. That's 7 years ago. But, you know, I was up and down Chapel Street, like, in Revolver, fucking in Electric... in Circus, like really young, being exposed to house music, like real deep house music. And I was also going to a lot of warehouse raves as well with my friends. Like when, you know, we were talking about it before, how rich Melbourne's, before the interview, how rich Melbourne's dance music culture is. And it's like, you can be in year 10 and like, you can't get into a fucking club, but you can go to Footscray and go to a warehouse doof. And so that's what me and my mates would do every weekend. Like, a group of like 30 of us would all trek out, you know, every weekend, man. And I was exposed to so much dance music that I was like, all right, this is the kind of lane that I want to move into. So I started producing like house and like all of that stuff around like year 10, year 11. I had a tech house project that did pretty well for a bit. Like, I had tracks played on Triple J and whatnot. And then at the same time, I had my techno duo with another DJ called Yonks. And we were a group called Nama. We, like, Rebuke used to play out our tracks, if you know who Rebuke is.
Yeah, we were sort of making like more melodic.
Yeah, melodic techno but with like a bite to it. You know?
Okay.
And so, like, yeah, definitely early in my career, it would be Martin Garrix. But it's funny, man. As I got deeper into dance music, all of my influences now aren't DJs. Like, they're all like rock stars and rappers and, you know, just various musicians across history. You know, I feel like the only two that I'd really count as like my actual inspirations that are DJs would be like Oliver Heldens and Martin Garrix.
Yeah. I guess because you started the OnlyWithYou project, when was that, like 2022?
It was at the very end of 2022. So I started.
I see you've only had this project, or the OnlyWithYou project, for like a year and a bit. Yeah.
And that was the weird part, was like it happened like after I got that momentum, it just happened so quickly, you know? And like, cause I've been doing it for so long, it was like, whoa, okay, this is different now. It was, the turning point was I came back from Pitch 2022 and I'd already started to fall out of love with the music that I was making at that time.
What was that?
Techno and techno trance, but like tech house and techno. Sorry.
Okay.
But it was all like 125 BPM to 130. And I kept saying to people, I'm like, it's all going to get faster. I can feel it. Like, I know the BPM's ticking up. I was playing tech house sets at 132, 134. And I'd have some DJs be like, oh, why are you playing it that fast? It fucks with the groove. And I'd be like, yeah, but it's go-y as, you know what I mean? Like, look at the dance floor. People are popping off just because I've made this track go 6 beats faster, you know? And I just started like experimenting in FL Studio. Like, I just started opening up a project and being like, yeah, I'll just make something fast. And then I made an amount of fast music, and I was like, hey, I've kind of got an EP here, and it's all really thematically similar. I was around that time, like I was listening to a lot of James as well, and Swim, and coming from a melodic background, and then being forced into a tech house scene for like 5 years, I didn't get to kind of flex my melodic muscles for that time. And then hearing that sound kind of come back, I was like, whoa, all right, like melody's cool again, you know, where for the longest time it was like, emotion, cheese, like, you know what I mean? Like, yuck, this sucks. But then I was like, dude, like people are crying in the club, you know what I mean? Like people are listening to these big melodic chords and still raving, and I saw an opportunity and I just went for it. Like it was this weird thing where like I just felt it within my body, like this is where this is going and I need to capitalize on this right now, because all of this music I'm hearing, it's stuff that I've wanted to make my entire life, but just the trends weren't there, you know? Like you couldn't make 140 melodic shit 4 years ago, you wouldn't get a gig, you know what I mean? So hearing that on the come up, I was just like, whoa, and I just surrendered to it, went all into it. I released my first track in November of 2022, and that was a remix of A Drug from God by Chris Lake and Grimes. And so even then the tech house influence still in there, you know, because I was still recovering from being in a tech house for 5 years. And then I dropped Digital Summer, which was my first EP in February, and that was all of those tracks that I had made at the start of Only With You. And funnily enough, bro, what I was talking about before with getting old stuff I've made and revamping it, Digital Summer, the title track of that EP was made in 2019 in my year 12 music class, and it was a 122 BPM melodic, like house techno, really like just chill track. And then I was like, what if I bumped it up 20 BPM? And it worked, you know what I mean? And so yeah, after that EP, just kind of knuckled down because I saw results from it, you know, like I started to see people listening and playing my songs, and I was like, and it was at the start of this scene as well, and it was just like, oh shit, like this is really forming in Melbourne, you know. And then I dropped The Answer, and then yeah, from there it just kind of went, you know.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I actually want to talk about like the whole trend thing.
Yeah,
like how music is sort of trend, like yeah, it's crazy how you went from sort of like the big house EDM stuff, then you went to the tech house melodic stuff, and now it's just like the trancey fast 140 150 stuff. It's pretty crazy how music has like done that over the years. Yeah,
for me the genre switches were just like, oh, this is acceptable now, you know what I mean? Like, oh, like I'm a big hater of when people bandwagon on a musical trend. Like you see a lot of big DJs, like now everyone's fucking making melodic 145 trance, and it's like, you guys were all playing minimal a year ago, what's going on? And I detest that. But for me, it was just kind of this thing of, I saw the scene emerging and I was like, this feels right. You know what I mean? Like I have wanted to like when I listened to My Purple iPod Nano, maybe it was Jador actually, it was the Skin on Skin track that came out in 2021, you know? Like the first time I heard that, I was like, oh my God, like I should have made this song, you know what I mean? Like it just ticked all the boxes. In my head. And like the thing is too with like music trends as well, is it's always going to be a thing, but it's about how you turn those themes into your own, you know? It's like what I said before, everything's been done but not by you. If this whole, you know, and I hear a lot of guys, they'll be like it's only been recently that people have actually started asking me for advice, which is wild. I am not to be trusted with anything apart from pressing play and do the beat match. That they're like, oh, how did you find your sound? And I'm like, it's actually one of the hardest things, you know? But for me, like, it's just, it was always what's trending right now. How do I make it my own? How do I bring my own thing to it? You know, and you just kind of mash that up a few times. And then after 10, 20 different times, you find your sound. You know, you're never going to wake up one day and be like, yes, I know exactly the music that I want to make. You know, it just doesn't happen. It's through experimentation. And anyone that claims that they woke up one day and knew the music they wanted to make is fucking lying. like, you know.
Maybe it was a sort of light bulb moment.
Yeah, but like, no, you still...
With light bulb, it comes from a series of events that give you the light bulb. It's never like an actual light bulb.
But even when the light bulb moment goes on, you need to refine it. You know what I mean? Like no one just wakes up and goes like, yeah, I'm going to make this. You know, you have to make a couple tracks and be like, oh, that works. Oh, that doesn't work. And then you kind of nail it and you go bang. You know, a massive thing is sample selection as well. Like a big tip that I have for young guys is like, when you're trying to find your sound, make a folder. Just make a folder. your name, you know what I mean, your artist name, and every sample that you use that you really like, just put it in there. And then when you make a new track, go, oh, here's the samples I really like. There's a good kick drum, there's a good clap. Maybe one thing that I do is I save parts of my old tracks. So let's say I made like a really like nice tonal ambience in an earlier song. Once I release that song, I will go back and render out that tonal ambience, put the BPM, put the key. So then next time I'm making a track in that key, I can just go, oh, I've got that part from something else. Like, I keep hitting the mic. I'm so sorry. I go back and I go like, oh, I've got this thing, chuck it in, just see how it goes. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But for me, that's been a really good like Lego block building thing where it's like, hey, I've got this kick drum from a track that sort of sounds like this one. I'll chuck that in. Oh, I've got my hi-hat that I always use that I really like, you know. A big one that I use is I've got a sample of me like breathing that I put behind hi-hats that just goes like that, and you just put it really, I put it really lightly behind hi-hats, and it kind of just makes everything pump a lot. I use that all the time. That's a massive thing. And then your sound develops, you know what I mean? The more that you mine for it, the closer you get to the gold, and then it's like, fuck, I found the gold. I had to mine for like 8 weeks though, you know?
I mean, I guess that's always the case with production from what I've heard. It's always like, yeah, you got to look for things. One thing that Caleb Jackson does, which I found really interesting, is that every time he goes into a project, he always uses a new library of sounds.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know how valid that is, because I obviously don't produce, but is that like, what's your opinion on that?
I would hate that, but like to each their own. Like the thing, bro, one of the most like beautiful things of the past year for me is I've worked with a lot of artists, you know, and when you have these sessions with people, like you see their workflow and you see the way that they work, and you just like, I'm amazed by it a lot of the time, because we're all doing the same thing, but we all do it so differently, man, like so insanely differently. And so there's stuff that some people do, and that's why like I think it's interesting, like on a lot of these like these YouTubers who do like production stuff, and they're like, the #1 trick to be able to make dance beats in 2024, and it's like, yeah, that works for you, but it doesn't fucking work for someone in Melbourne, Australia making techno trance, you know what I mean? Like there's no set preset, like this is how you're meant to do it, you know? And so when I hear wacky things like that, like he starts with the different samples every time, sick. It would never work for me, but for him, probably works a treat. You know what I mean?
Like his reasoning for it is just sort of the creativity side of it.
Yeah,
he doesn't want to sort of create his, which, no, Caleb, if you're listening, we're not dissing you. It's like an amazing process, because it just sort of like, it gets your brain
really working,
because you really, as you said, you got to mine for it.
Yeah, dude.
And I feel like you got to work. He was saying like at first he hated it.
Yes.
But then eventually, as he kept going through it, he just got used to it, and then now it's like it's part of its process.
It kind of touches on what I said before as well, like about like throwing yourself in the deep end and trying to paddle back. Like that's taking it to an extreme, you know, an extreme in a good way, you know, like, but dude, I'm actually gonna try that out. I'm gonna trial that in the next couple of weeks. Just open up like some random scuffed pack I haven't touched in years, and just be like, fuck it, what can I make?
Yeah.
And restrict myself only to those samples. I feel like that's a cool exercise.
Because like, yeah, obviously kicks and hi-hats and all that sort of stuff, they all sound very similar to the end user. Obviously to you.
It's insane, bro. I have moments all the time where I'll send a mate a track. I'll be like, which kick sounds better? And they'll be like, you've just sent me 2 of the same thing. I'm like, are you fucked? Like, I've sent you 2 like completely different mixes, bro. And then I remember like, bro, I make music for like people on drugs in nightclubs. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, if kick go boom and bass also go boom, and then like lead sort of catchy, you're sweet, you know? Like producers get so caught up in the semantics of it, you know, in the mix down, like something that I try not do at all anymore. Like I mix as I go. So when you're producing a track, like, do you know what a mix down is? A mix down is when you level all of the instruments at the end of the track to make sure everything sounds nice. Okay. So if you listen to a track and the kick's just way too loud, or their bass is like it's to ensure that doesn't happen. I would fuck my tracks in the mix, bro. I would finish a song and I'd sit there making little tweaks for weeks on end. I'd open it up and be like I'd listen to it on the train in the morning on the way to work, and I'd be like, oh yeah, that clap needs to be quieter. But then I'd turn it down by like half a decibel, and I'd be like, yeah, it sounds better now. No, it fucking doesn't. Like it's the most minute detail in the world that to any punter they would have no idea. You know?
I was gonna say.
And I catch myself all the time, because I have been doing this so long. I am a bit of like, I get a bit like this when I listen to tracks sometimes. I'm like, his drums are too squashed. You know what I mean? Like I roast people's mixes.
You do it to other people?
not to their face, but if I'm in the club and I hear a track sometimes, I'm like, huh, he obviously didn't put his bass in mono. And so that's something that sticks out to me a lot. But the punter next to me doesn't know that.
Yeah.
He can't tell that the bass isn't mono compatible. He can't tell that the kick is out of phase with the bass. He can't tell that even the lead is out of key. And like, it probably sounds like I'm speaking gibberish, but like, these are the rules that I live by. But to the average punter, it doesn't matter, man.
Yeah.
And like, that's something that I've really had to remind myself again and again is, it's not that serious. You know what I mean? It doesn't need to be pin perfect. I'm not in a like studio in Los Angeles about to do the mix for some beat that someone's going to play at Coachella that's going to be on like $1 million sound system. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't need to be too precise. Bro, I know DJs in Melbourne right now who play full sets of YouTube to MP3 rips, you know? The sound quality is completely fucked. But when they're in the club, no one cares. Like, everyone's just like, yeah, sweet, bass go boom, kick go boom, bass also go boom, lead sort of catchy.
Yeah, that's true. Like, you know what? You don't, as a raver, you don't really care.
Yeah.
Even like with mixing, like DJs, you're like, that's beat match error.
I have heard people clang in the club, and I have not seen the
You've heard
dance
what?
floor change. Clang, so when like they're out of time.
Oh, yes, 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 yes.
Yeah. I've heard people clang, and the crowd's just like, this is sick. You know what I mean? Like, bro, I do it to myself all the time when I'm playing. I'll get off the decks, I'll be like, I can't believe I fucked up that transition, and I'll speak to someone, they'll be like, oh, I didn't know. Like, I had no idea. But because like when you're DJing, like, you know how it was meant to sound in your head. And especially like a lot of the time when I'm playing, like, I'll know I'm a big nut on having stuff in key. Like, I only mix in key when I'm DJing, which means like, so everything just goes really nicely together. And so I'll have a lot of the time when I'm playing a set, like if I play that track, I know that I can either play it that track or that track afterwards. And 9 times out of 10, it's going to sound sick. But I will make like a slight EQ error. Or like maybe just like I didn't cut out the bass all the way properly, and I will beat myself up about it because I know how it was meant to sound in my head. Not like beat myself up, like I'm not like stupid, but I'm there just like, fuck, dude, for real. Like, you're meant to be at the top of your game right now, and you're fucking up your EQ transition. You know what I mean? And I'll deep it really hard, and then I'll get off the decks, and I'll like say to, usually it's Telefixer, like usually it's Fraser, and I'll just be like, man, I can't believe I did that. And he goes, I don't know, I didn't notice anything. And it's like, shit, I forgot. Like,
it's always the case, yeah.
Definitely, man.
And even like you gotta remember these DJs are human beings.
Yeah,
they're
man.
They're not robots who are there like AI coded to make everything. I think that's the beauty of it as well. The reason that they are humans.
Yes.
That like, you know, even if you do catch, you know,
and humans make mistakes, man. That's the thing.
And they always save it so well.
Definitely.
Like, they save it like crazy.
That's something I've also had to get very good at very quickly, is thinking on the fly. Because when you're in front of 1,000 people, bro, and you like, it's weird. I've spoken to a few DJs about this. You have this weird sixth sense when something's about to fuck up. Not shout out Sixth Sense. No, I mean like the sixth sense is in like, you get this kind of like thing, like this caveman brain instinct where you're like, oh no, this is about to fuck it. You know what I mean? Like, I get it all the time. And you've basically got like a second and a half to make it not be completely fucked. So what's
like an example?
I would say, dude, this gets me all the time. This is so embarrassing to admit. I will just forget to loop something while I'm transitioning. And then I will look at the waveform and be like, I've got 2 beats left. How did I do this? like, bro, the bane of my existence. All the time. And so a big thing that I love to do is like, the second I know that that's happening, double halftime echo, do some filter stuff, sometimes like loop that last beat. And like working in a DJ store for so long, like I know so many deck tricks, bro. Like I know shit that like I'll tell people and they'll be like, what? I'm like, yeah, I didn't even know that too, you know? So there's a lot of like little quick tricks I know how to do to like make something still sound like the track's playing, you know, by just applying the right echo, or do it like knowing how to build tension by using the flanger while also using the dub echo. Like, you'll see my hands while I'm DJing like this a lot. You'll see me like being very intense with like faders and stuff because I need to get, you know, need to change it from 1/8 beat to 1 millisecond beat to 1 millisecond snap on the echo, you know? And when I'm doing that, I'm not thinking about it. That's my survival muscle memory of like, the track's about to fuck it. Let's just do the thing. And there's been a lot of times where it's actually been the sickest transitions I've ever done. And like, I'll say to people, I'm like, that's the happiest accident ever, you know? Like there's a few tracks on like of my mixes on SoundCloud where like that has happened. Like I think in my XE files or something, there's a really long build up when I'm going. I was going into some Lucas Boston track, and it's because that exact thing happened to me where I forgot to fucking loop, and so I do this like 16 bar like massive build up where I've got the color effects doing the white noise. And the flanger going, so it makes this crazy like woo 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 woo, and it's sick as fuck. But me, while I was doing it on stage, I was like, you know, like just like oh my god, like this is working. What the fuck? Yeah, sorry, there's a little bit of insight into my mind.
That would be like an adrenaline rush.
Definitely. But that's the moments of DJing I love, bro. Like those moments where it's like you're alive and you're feeling it and you're like, fucking hell, like this is working. Like I am a big culprit of just doing live mashups all the time, like because like in Melbourne for so many years, like before COVID, it was a very competitive DJing scene, bro. Like that's why I know how to do a lot of this stuff. It's because if you weren't worth your salt before COVID, like you wouldn't get booked. Like you had to be, especially in like the house music scene, you had to be a really good DJ. That's why you see a lot of these older cats in Melbourne who are still around to this day, still getting booked, because promoters and punters, they see them and they go like, that's a DJ's DJ, you know?
Who's like an example of
I'd
that?
say Buggs easily. You probably wouldn't have heard of him before either, but see, like in Melbourne, he's on the Mount Rushmore of DJs. I personally think he's one of the best selectors in Melbourne. Hans DC as well, another Revolver staple. Buggs is also a Revolver staple. Like it's all the old Revolver DJs essentially, you know? And these were the guys that like when I was going in there, like when I was in high school, that I'd be there and just watch and be like, what the fuck? I tell people when we go to see Buggs play, like because he has a regular spot at Revolver every weekend. Same with like guys like T-Rex, Spacey Space, Silver Six. Like we're talking Mount Rushmore of Melbourne DJ. Anyo, fucking. Anyways, I could go on forever. When we watch Buggs, I go try and pinpoint the exact moment he switches from one track to the other. You can't do it. His mixing is so seamless. The way that, and like, this is a guy, doesn't dance around. He looks at the decks the whole time. He walks in at 5 a.m. He walks out at 6 a.m. He is a professional's professional for this stuff. And that's just how it is in Melbourne, you know? So watching that growing up, I taught myself very quickly to know how to do a lot of these tricks, to know how to fuck with the music while it's playing, you know, to add acapellas, to do something that elevates it, you know? My end goal is I want punters to be able to look at me DJing and be like, how the fuck did he do that, you know? And for me, a big thing is like, a lot of people perform for the punters. I also perform for the DJs, bro, you know? Like when I'm up there, I want to be doing stuff where other DJs go, fuck, like he is a pro, you know what I mean? Because that's how you kind of get to that black belt level. You can be a pro to the punters, but being a pro to DJs, bro, like Cookies and Cream said it to me one time. They were like OnlyWithYou is your favorite DJ's favorite DJ. And I try and keep that moniker up. I try and make sure that I can be that for people by just being like, I'm taking this to the next level. You know what I mean? I'm trying to throw myself in the deep end and paddle back to shore. So yeah, like acapellas, that's a big thing. I've got like 100 different vocals on my USB that like I'll see it's in key and I'll be like, sweet, just chuck that on. Sometimes it doesn't work. You know what I mean? Sometimes I'll put Daft Punk Technologic over a track that shouldn't have Daft Punk Technologic. But what matters is I tried.
I think that's the big thing. You gotta risk it. Like I feel, playing it safe can work for your favor, but I feel like risking it is like where you sort of get, as you said, to that next level, and people look at you and like, how the fuck did he do that? Definitely.
Like, and bro, to touch on that as well, like, yeah, you can play it safe and you'll be fine. But it's like, there's this thing with DJing, right? Where anyone can be a DJ. Like anyone, your mum could be a DJ. Your dog with the correct training could be a DJ. But not everyone can be a good DJ, you know? And that's where the distinction lies for me, is anyone can do this. Well, if everyone can do it, how do you get to that step above? Like, how do you really be like, and whether that's through like live performance, you know, like people introducing like drum pads and like doing like Fred Again cosplay where they're like, yes, I've got the funny beat thing, or whether it's having like a analog synth, you know, there are ways that people do it. I tend to like to go for the James Hype method of more, this is the equipment I've got, what can I do with just this, you know? Especially because a lot of that other stuff is expensive, bro. Like, I don't got $3,000 to drop on a synth willy-nilly. I've got rent to pay, bro. Like, get real. My iced coffees cost $6. They used to be $4. Like, nah.
Well, if you stop buying iced coffees, you probably get... No, I'm joking.
That would never happen. Oh, dude. But... yeah, I like to think of it as a way, these are the tools at my disposal. We're all using the same tools, but I'm going to try and use the tools better than you can use them, you know? Like, and And I feel like that really pays off, especially in the eyes of other DJs. Because when other DJs talk and they go like, fuck, dude, he's actually sick. Like, bro, there are so many DJs that I've seen in the past year where it's like, I'll be standing there with like Telefixer, or I'll be standing there with like Ned Better or something. I'll be like, this guy's insane. You know what I mean? Like, you gawk over their DJing ability. Like, I remember when I saw like Antigone for the first time, or some people say Antigone, but I'm adamant that it's Antigone. But regardless, he had 4 faders up playing vinyl in the club. And I was just like, oh, I suck. Like, I was like, this is crazy. I remember Anyo and Ilya, Sydney legend, Anyo, Melbourne legend. They have a group called Ilyo that they used to do in the early 2000s, and every so often they do shows in Melbourne. I remember the first time seeing those two play together at Tramp in Melbourne, and Ilya had this crazy glove on, like it was like he was in fucking Pokemon or something, bro. Like this crazy glove, and he was scratching on a CDJ. I'd never seen someone scratch reliably on a CDJ before, because there's always that little bit of latency. There's always a bit of lag. Seamless, bro. Just like fucking cutting and screwing, and I'm just there like that was right when my techno project like with Nama was starting to kind of get traction, and we were like, Yonks and I were just standing there just like
just like in shock.
What the fuck? Like, that was literally like, it was so nuts, bro. I went up to him after his set and I was just like, I've never seen anyone do that before. And he was like, oh, cheers, G. Like, dude, glad you enjoyed it. Oh, yeah, Anya, we're gonna go. And I'm like, that's the god of DJing. Like, who is this man? And I'd never heard of him before then. And then like, I was amazed, bro. Like, just insane.
Yeah. I guess from this, I want to ask, who, you mentioned Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
Who's on your Mount Rushmore of Melbourne, like, I guess, cult heroes? Or like like, I think cult's the wrong word. I'm going to ask it again. Who's like your Mount Rushmore of like Melbourne legendary DJs?
I'd say Boogs is 100% on there. It's hard because we had a massive Melbourne bounce and minimal scene for a very long time. And there's a lot of those guys that like, yeah, they were good for the scene that they're in, but that was so EDM influenced. I don't even really count it as the same thing as club DJing.
What about like people that have just sort of like had that longevity, like you mentioned Boogs, like people that have had the longevity.
Spacey Space as well. Hans DC is a DJ that like he plays at like Music Room and Revs and blah, blah, blah. I think his mixing ability is just amazing. But in terms of like major Mount Rushmores, you know what's fucked? I'm gonna say it, and then an hour after this, I'm gonna think of someone I didn't say, and I'm gonna feel so bad. Can I have a second to think?
Yes,
and we can just
I'll
edit
give
this
you
bit
a
out.
second.
Yeah.
Right, here is subjective, the Mount Rushmore of legendary Melbourne DJs.
I would like these are, and I'm picking a few of them for a couple different reasons. I had to have a big brainstorm. But I would say 100% Boogs. Boogs is 100% up there. Just mixing ability alone. Vibe as well. Like, just such a DJ's DJ. Like, he's not in it for the glitz or the glam or the crowd. He's just there because he loves music, you know? I'd also say, especially in the past couple of years, like Rory Marshall is up there. Especially for me, I would say Rory is definitely up there now. Like, to have such a crazy couple of years with getting signed to like Carl Cox's label, it was the first time that there was someone like within my direct connection, like someone that I knew that I saw breaking out of Melbourne and getting so big. And that was insane. And he's the most lovely bloke in the world, man. Like, and like just saying like all the stuff that he's gone on to do over the past 2 years, it's just like there is nobody more deserving. And he produces like a weapon, bro. Like there are certain people that just get dance music, you know, like the 909 makes sense to them, you know? And like, he's someone where no matter what track I listen to from him, I'm just like, this makes me want to move, dude. Like, it makes my feet want to fucking tap. And not everyone's got that. Like, I don't have that. Like, I know that my strong suit is melody, but I don't have that part of me where I can write a groove and it just like washes over you. You know what I mean? Another one, Spacey Space. Spacey Space is up there. Another legend in the scene that's just been around for so long. I know that I'm missing someone as well. Like, when I was brainstorming this just then, I'm like, I'm gonna leave, and like an hour later, I'm gonna be sitting in the fucking Uber. I'll be like, fuck, like I didn't name that person. Sunshine as well. she's also like a massive innovator with the Sunshine Disco Faith Choir. Like, it's not exactly my bag. Like, I'm not super into it, but I'm into the innovation that you can get dance music, you can get house music and take it that one step further and make it something really cool. And this is a bit of a controversial one really quickly. But if you know them not for their bigger stuff, I would say like Orchestrated is up there as well.
Okay.
Like when a lot of people, when they think about Orchestrated, like I actually know Adam Bartis, one of the Orchestrated guys as well. He's the one that did the vocal on Nightcrawler, their biggest song. But people know them for their really like Melbourne bounce, like minimal stuff.
Okay.
But when they first popped off, they were like electro minimal. Like they were very different to what was going on. Like everywhere else was just like, and yeah, they had tracks like that, but they also had like the really like groovy, like dirty, like electro stuff. Which I haven't really seen a lot of other Melbourne DJs do. There were definitely a lot of guys around that time that were doing it that have kind of like fallen off a bit. But those old Orc tapes, man, like they're sick, you know. But a lot of people today, like they know them for they're just their Melbourne bounce minimal stuff. But if you really go down like the rabbit hole on like their, especially like 2007 to 2010, what they were playing, like it's dirt, bro. It's sick. And like especially if you're into that really like revolver electro feel, like when Revs gets like any person who's ever been to Revs like regularly knows like the hour that Revs gets dirty. It's like where it stops being like, yeah, groovy music, and then it's like, oh, like just constant bass face. It's that type of stuff, you know?
Yeah.
I'd also say like maybe one more just because they popped into my head and I thought about it. A couple of years ago, Market Memories, bro. They made a track that like I remember they forget what track they made, but it got played at Tomorrowland that year. And it was another thing like Rory Marshall. It's like, holy fuck, here's someone I know, two guys that I know, and you can tangibly see what they've done. And for young artists like me, like being able to see like, hey, you can break out of Melbourne that easily, it makes all the difference because it makes it obtainable then. Where like when you start this stuff, it's like you dream of doing all this massive stuff and it's like, well, that's so far away. How do I do it? And then you go like, hold on, like Rory Marshall's from Cheltenham, bro. Like it's like, hold on, that guy from Cheltenham just fucking, you know, Carl Cox just played his song like in front of 50,000 people. Like it becomes real, you know? Yeah. So yeah, I've definitely forgotten someone or even multiple people. But yeah, off the top of my head, that's definitely a couple of the Mount Rushmore kind of staples that I'd say, yeah.
Yeah, well, anyone listening, Melbourne, I don't know who went out in Melbourne back in the day, or even if you are from Sydney but used to go out in Melbourne, let me know. Send us a DM, comment on YouTube or comment on Spotify, up to you.
Bro, if you had Orchestrated on here, that would be wild. They are wild motherfuckers.
Oh, really?
Dude, also Dom Dollar as well. Like, I don't really rate his stuff anymore, but for him to be the biggest DJ in the world right now and to come from literally like being like for the longest time, like a C-level, B-level Melbourne DJ. Like he was always around, but he was in more of the background while the main scene was kind of going on. Well, now he's the biggest thing in the world, you know? And so that alone, he's on the Mount Rushmore as well.
I feel like, yeah, Dom Dollar's an interesting case because now people look at him and be like, oh, he's mainstream.
Yeah.
But I remember back in like 2017, 2018,
Yeah,
like
dude.
San Fran Disco. Is that
Bro, before San Fran Disco,
oh,
bro.
no, Define?
Yeah, dude, he also had a remix for Peking Duck as well that was a massive, like, just a track that would play, like, at Gads and shit when I was in high school. And then I remember, like, it was right before San Fran Disco when he made, Shake It, come on, baby, cut some shaves.
That's San Fran Disco, isn't it?
No, that's San Francisco, where's your disco? And then the other track is Come on, baby, cut some shaves.
Nah, the one track that I absolutely, I still love to this day of Dom Dollars is Define.
Yeah, no, I know.
It's like the very housey, like
kind of Odd Mob style in a way.
Yes. I remember that song getting played at every single like year 11 party.
Yeah, right.
And I remember that was like the biggest pre-drink song. Like if you were at a party or you're in a car, you're going from school, that's the song you'd play. And that was like the biggest hype song. Like everyone would be like, "Fuck yeah, the boys are on."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I feel like Dom Dollar's an interesting case because like everyone was a fan of him at some point in their life.
Definitely. And like he's a good producer as well. He's a good DJ, a good producer, and seems like a ripper dude. It's just, yeah, he's now at a point now where his music's a bit cheese, you know?
Do you think Dom Dollar is like a case of tall poppy syndrome?
In a way, yes, but I also think he's a case of like Americanized DJ syndrome, if that makes sense. And the way that I think about this is I feel like when people get big in the US, like there's something in Australia where people are like, huh, well, they're lame now. You know what I mean? Like it happened with Fisher. Like, bro, when Fisher was first coming up, like that was wild. Like I remember like 2017, I think 2016 was when he dropped ground control to Major Tom or whatever it
Okay,
was.
yeah.
And people were like, whoa, what the fuck? And then I think it was like after losing it, everyone was just like, well, this fucking sucks. You know what I mean?
It's like that meme. It's like, I'm done playing with you now.
Yeah, literally.
All right, sorry about that, guys. My SD card ended up going over capacity, and in the meantime, we got some refreshments. Oh, at least I always got some refreshments.
Some refreshments. I'm feeling
Anyways,
refreshed.
while we were gone, as he mentioned, he
Yes.
actually forgot to have someone.
Oh, I knew-
and mention someone.
I
We'll
knew
get
it
back
would
to the
happen.
We'll get back to the Dom Dollar chat and that whole sort of tall puppy syndrome, Americanized DJ syndrome. But before that, you have someone that you have to shout out.
Luke Vecchio. Like, I cannot believe I forgot his name. This was literally the man who like inspired me to dance the way I do on stage. Like when I was going to Revolver back in high school, I would go there on a Thursday night, which was the free night, right? And it was fuck, bro. The amount of times that I would go to Revs on a Thursday night, stay there the whole night, and then go to school on the Friday morning. Like, it was an interesting time. It
Fuck
built up
that.
my resilience. Now I can stay awake for 2 days and not feel anything. Like literally, I can stay awake.
Is that a good thing though?
I would say, look, it's all condiing, you know, for when I'm hopefully touring overseas.
Athletes condition themselves. Why can't
Yeah,
DJs?
exactly. Why can't I just do that? Bro, I'd go there on a Thursday night. This man would be playing, just like grooving to the music, like really feeling it, you know? There's a big thing in DJing where it's cool not to give a fuck, you know? It's cool not to like dance to the music or be really into it, you know? But I think the complete opposite. Like when I see the DJ really vibing out to what they're playing, like you connect with them. You're then just like two people on a dance floor instead of like, oh, the sound controller, the selector at the front of the venue, you know? And he's someone that embodies that. He's someone that loves music, you know, like loves it. You can see it, it's excreting from him, you know? He took a bit of a hiatus for a bit, so he's not doing a lot in Melbourne so much at the moment. But bro, that run from like 2017 to like right before COVID, like I was just mesmerized. I've got this, it's funny, I've got this photo of, this was when I was in year 12 and it was on Halloween, funnily enough. So he's actually dressed up as Mario in the photo. But I've got a photo like the first time I met him because like I built up the courage to be like, I want to go speak to him, you know? Because like I was super young, bro, and like talking to older DJs, like it was a bit like, fuck, like I don't want to overstep my welcome, you know? And honestly, like he would have no fucking clue who I am, you know what I mean? Like
Maybe now he does.
If I showed him the photo and be like, I was that punter, he'd be like, oh, I remember you, but he wouldn't know. But regardless, and like in this photo, I'm so elated to be standing next to him. I'm just like, what the fuck, you know what I mean? And it's funny because like I've, especially like in the past 9 months, especially since BTV, bro, like when I'm in a nightclub, I have like a couple punters, sometimes even more, come up and get photos with me, which is wild. Like that blows my mind, but I see the same looks in their face that I had standing with Luke Vecchio, and it's just like, it's just fucking magical to me, bro. Like the fact that like I can hopefully be like that guy for these younger DJs that the DJs that I looked up to were for me. Because that's how the scene happens. That's how culture forms, you know? Back to what we were saying before about the culture in Melbourne. The reason why that exists is because we have a lot of older guys that we can look to and go, like, you did this before me. There is lineage here, you know what I mean? There is something to pick up from and now take into my own, you know? And like the one thing I hope is that I will one day be one of those guys for those starting out DJs. Bro, if I had a kid come up to me in the club and be like, I started doing this because of your music, I'd cry. I would genuinely cry. I'd be like, whoa. And so I'm hanging out. I hope one day there's something like that happens.
I'm sure it will. I feel like even from this podcast, you're very inspirational. So
Thanks,
I feel like anyone listening is a massive fan of Only With You will probably listen to this and be like, I love the podcast.
Bro, get this really quickly. I've actually got something sort of not like on the same note, but similar note. I opened for Ollie Lishman last year at New Guernica, right? One of my favorite sets I've ever played. Like just electric. Gurns is only like a 450 cap, and we were packed. Like in like it's got 2 levels and shit, blah blah blah. Anyways, play a set, sweet. I'm in the club at XE about 2 weeks ago, and I have this dude and a chick come up to me, and he goes, "Only with you," and I'm like, "Oh hey bro, how you doing?" Like da da da. He goes, "Bro, so nice to meet you. You know when you played New Guernica last year with Ollie Lishman?" And I'm like, "Yeah, bro, I love that set." Blah blah blah. He goes, "That was the night we met and we're still dating." And I was like, this is fucking awesome. Like, I'm Cupid. Like, this is sick. And just the idea that, like, something like that happened like during one of my sets, and now those people for like their entire relationship will be like, yeah, we met during an Only With You set. Like I love that
That's
stuff,
so sick.
bro. Like
Hopefully they're still together.
yeah, I hope so.
Well, I mean, it was 2 weeks ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was literally like 2 weeks ago at XA.
Okay,
So
so
unless
yeah.
something catastrophic has happened.
Yeah, that's funny as. Yeah, I guess, yeah, you've sort of experienced a minor form of what you want to experience.
Exactly, yeah. And just like, oh, fuck, I hope I have kids one day and they're just like, only, and that's with you. Yeah. Like, this is my
3
twin.
kids, only, with, and you.
Yeah, this is our twins, techno and trance.
Yeah, well, that's amazing. I think all that stuff, all this conversation, even like I can sort of see your energy, even like from speaking to you. I can just tell. I was like, it doesn't shock me what I've seen of you on stage. I'm like, I know it's like, I don't know, maybe maybe it's like a persona that you put on stage, but no, this is the real
It's
you.
me,
Like,
I know.
Yeah, it's the real you.
This is, it's an Eminem quote that he said once time. This isn't a gimmick. This is an image. I live it. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's touching what you were saying before. Like people go like, how do you do it on stage? I'm like, that's just what I do.
Yeah.
Like when I'm listening to this music, that's what I want to do. When I'm up there commanding a crowd, I move exactly how I feel. You know what I mean? I've explained it to people like this before. Gospel singers, right? They talk about like the Holy Ghost, like the Spirit, the Holy Spirit. And they say that like when they're singing this music, they feel it pulsate through them. That's what I feel like with dance music, bro. Like when I'm listening to it, when I'm DJing, when I'm up there on a stage, it's like I'm just pumped full of like fucking super serum. You know what I mean? Like I feel it pulsating through me that I need to let it out.
Yeah.
You know? And also like I just love this shit so much, bro. Like I said before, like I could talk about music for so long, because I love music, bro. Like Ollie Downs, who runs Sampler, once said to me, he was like, there's no one I know that likes music more than you, bro. Okay, maybe Ned Bennett, but apart from that, there's no one else I know that likes music more than you. And I was like, fuck, I'm a bit of a nerd with this, like I just,
right.
yeah.
That's, I mean, yeah. I said I'm sort of, I can feel it even from this interview. I was like, that's you. Like,
Yeah.
like I guess my question at the start was like, how the fuck do you do this on stage? But I'm like, now I know why. And as you said, it's like, it's you. It's how you are. I guess. Yeah, but I guess the same other people. Like someone's a bit more reserved in person. They'll probably be a bit more reserved on stage.
Yes.
Sort of thing. So like someone like Brent Honey, for example, as well. Very outgoing.
Energetic, very electric personality.
And
100%.
you can see it on stage. But then there's some people that you meet, they're a little bit more reserved, and you see it on stage. But there's nothing wrong with either of those. It's just who you are, I guess.
I think the most interesting one is when you meet people who are very reserved in person and they're a nutcase on stage. I love that, bro. I'm literally like when like there's a few rappers, especially that like Oz rappers that I know. Like a few of the Triple J guys and the Operatives guys, like in Melbourne, shout out the Operatives. Fucking where you meet them in person and they're so chill, they're so nice, they're so insightful. And then they're on stage and they're just fucking losing their shit. And I think that's awesome because you have such a separation from the person and the art form, like where it's like, hey, this is me as a person, but here's me when I turn it up to 11, like in a weird way, like I remember being really young and it was an interview that I saw on YouTube with like, I think it was John Cena or something. It was something.
Jesus Christ.
But this is going somewhere, right? I think it was John Cena. And someone was talking about like, how did you create your character like in wrestling? And he goes, it's just me turned up to 11. And that's how I think about music, That's how I think about your persona, Like the way that you conduct yourself. You got to get everything that is you and just go, you know what I mean? Because when you're larger than life, people resonate with that, man. When you kind of commit to it, and be like, this is me, this is what I'm doing, and do become that larger than life character, there's a certain switch in people's brain where it's like, you're not just a DJ anymore. You're not just a selector. Like you become an artist in a way. And I feel like that it's something that I feel like is important for new guys getting into the scene. Like if you're listening, like I'm speaking to you right now, if you feel like you can do something more with your DJing, if you feel like you've got this itch, like that you can do something, but you're afraid of how people are going to react to it, just do it. You know what I mean? The most liberating part of Only With You for me is how comfortable I've gotten on stage, being crazy, man. Like just doing wild shit. Like the more that I've fed into it, the more rewarding this whole project has been. And it was from years of, even when I was in Nama, even when I was in a techno duo, I would dance a bit behind the decks, but when you're in a duo, you need to kind of there needs to be synergy. You know what I mean? So I could never really let loose and fucking do what I felt, because it was like, no, we're two dudes playing techno. We have to really keep it a little bit like cool because we're two dudes playing techno. Where with this stuff, the more that I've kind of been vulnerable in front of a crowd, you know, like been weird. And I remember probably like the first 2 OnlyWithYou gigs when I was really feeding into it. And I remember this certain people just being like, oh, that dude on the decks, you know what I mean? Or like, oh yeah, it was moving, like blah, blah, blah. I haven't had that for a year now. You know what I mean? Good. Every time I jump off the decks, it's praise. And it's that weird thing where, you know, when you start something out and people haven't caught onto it yet, it's really easy for people to kind of be like, oh, that's whack. You know what I mean? But it's about moving through that bit of the whackness and being like, no, this is real. And then people go, that is cool, you know? I saw Narcissus on RA the other day, and they were talking about how, like, the hate that they get online and the way that they use that to kind of fuel themselves to be more, like, true and to be more like them. When I heard them say that, I was like, that's what I feel. I just haven't put it like that before, you know? And it's very important, man, because DJing's at a point now, electronic music is the biggest thing in the world. You know what I mean? Right. There is bro, if you had told me 5 years ago that electronic music would be the biggest thing in the world in 5 years, I would have told you to get completely fucked. Like, I would have been like, this is sick, but like rap and even country, like, I don't know fucking shit about country, but I know that all those are platinum records, you know what I mean? But like, I would go, of course they're going to be bigger, but no, we're living in a time where dance music is the dominant thing. And so with that, everybody wants to be a DJ. Everybody wants to do this and that. And if you've got a pool that big, what are you going to do to stand out? What are you going to do to be different? Because you can be the best at your game, right? You can be a fucking sick producer. You can be a great DJ. You can tick all the boxes. But if you're not different, you're just another guy with a USB. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there are some people, to their credit though, who are absolutely subpar DJs who, because their vibe, they were so different, they made a character out of it, they've shot to the moon. You know what I mean? I'm not going to name any names, but like, you know, being different is so important, especially because if you're different, people see that and they go, whoa, and they want to be an early adopter of it. You know what I mean? They want to be like, dude, I know about this guy like 3 months ago. Like,
those guys are like, oh, I was listening to this guy when he had like 1,000 followers.
1,000 followers, exactly, man.
Yeah, but I guess being different in a sense is good and bad. I guess you don't want to be too different that you look like you're just trying to be different.
Yes,
you want to be naturally different. You know
Absolutely.
What I mean? I feel like,
and don't try too hard. This is a massive. Oh my god, you've actually said something golden just there. Sorry, I wasn't even going to say that. To touch on what I just said, do not try too hard. Don't force it either. Especially with what I do behind the decks. It was Rory Marshall that said it to me, right? And he was talking about how he hates the way that when DJs just go too hard behind the decks. He's like, it feels so cheese, man. I hate it. And I was like, oh, fuck, you probably hate watching me DJ. And he goes, I don't, because when you do it, I believe you, you bastard. And I'm like, fuck yeah. Like, if you can be genuine about it, and that's really you, it's something Young Shogun says to me all the time, the rapper that I work with, the guy that did the vocal on Check the Style, right? He goes, real, recognize real. And when he used to say that to me, I would be like, yeah, like real, recognize real. Yeah, bro. I've heard rap music before. I understand real, recognize real.
Lingo.
Yeah, I know that. But now, the further that I've gotten into this, real, recognize real is a huge thing. I've interacted with a lot of world-class DJs in the past year, and most of them, you see the love they had for this stuff. A few of them, they're completely foo-foo. You know what I mean? You can sense it. When you love music this much and you're talking to someone and you're so invested in it, you can feel when someone's facetious. You can feel when someone, bro, the biggest thing in the world that I hate is when you're talking to some of these DJs and they just they give you donuts. You know what I mean? They go like, oh, thanks, bro. And then like, look away, you know? I've had lovely conversations with Patrick Mason, with Narcissus, like, Juicy Selector, there's a million other names that I could name right now, but people who really love music, and when you speak to them, it's this instant connection of just like, wow, man, like it blows you away. And so a big thing in this industry that is now so clouded with fakeness, with bullshit, you know, with people really, with honestly clout chasing, be the most true. And although like I'm a fan of his music, I'm not a fan. Fred again, right? Like, cheese, right? Cheese. But there's no denying the man's talented, right?
Yeah, he loves music as well.
And this is the thing. You can see how much he loves music. And bro, I remember right when that Boiler Room dropped, right? Probably a month earlier, I'd listened to, it was that track that he made. It was called like Big Hen or something. I forget what it was. But the music video was along the River Thames, right? And I was like, who the fuck is this guy? And then the Boiler Room happened, right? He's so genuinely himself, you know? He's Fred Gibson. You know what I mean? Like, he is not Fred again, he is Fred Gibson. And people resonate with that. People get that. People really vibe with that. And for years, DJing was like, I'm Steve Aoki, I'm throwing fucking cake at people in Las Vegas, you know? Or it's like, I'm Tiesto, put your fucking hands up, you know? It was fake. It was larger. It was a product, you know what I mean?
Fred again's a good sort of an interesting case because, like, yeah, I guess it's not his fault that he's so like mainstream and cheesy now.
I only don't like him because I found out that this is so dumb of me. I don't like him because I found out that he basically comes from royalty. Like,
oh,
dude,
really?
It's crazy. His grandpa is Ian Fleming, who wrote James Bond.
Oh shit!
You know what I'm saying?
Like a bit of nepotism.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying, right? And his dad is a lawyer for the Crown. Like as in the
royal family.
Yeah, the royal family, right? He is a once in a generation artist. Seeing what he does, wow. But there's always some part of me that when I find out that there's nepotism, so any form of nepotism involved,
yeah, he turns you off a little bit.
Yeah, your credibility gets ripped out because I've been doing this so long. I've seen all the industry plans. You know what I mean? I've seen the DJs that spinning records try to be like, this is about to be the biggest DJ in the world, and then you find out who their ghost producer is. Like I've seen like act after act after act be like industry planted, and he's not an industry plant, but it's a game of snakes and ladders, and when you just get the lift to the top.
Yeah, I guess it's one of those like things where it's like, yeah, if you are, you know, so wealthy and you are sort of don't really have to worry about the stresses of life.
Yeah.
You're just going to pursue something creative, which is another political topic that we won't get into. But let's just say that if you have a lot of money, you're going to pursue something more creative than something a bit more secure. So,
oh, definitely, bro.
I think it's an important thing to know as well. People are always like, oh, I want to be creative. But you got to remember, a lot of these creatives come from, not all of them.
Yes, yeah, definitely not.
But like people you see, they come from a background of financial privilege in a sense where maybe they're not, you know, high-class, multi-million-dollar families, but they do have a sense of middle-class security where they can afford to fall back and maybe even pursue something creative while also doing a day job, being like, oh, if I fuck this up, then I'm not going to be like in the mud, sort of, you know, on the brink of homelessness, or like, you know, that's extreme.
But it can get there, you know what I mean? Yeah.
So I think people got to remember that as well. It's like, and I'm not saying that everyone that you know, every musician you know is a fucking industry plant.
And that's not true at all.
Multi-millionaire.
Yeah, especially in Australia, like we do have a very, like, you know, like say what you want about them because they do have faults, but Triple J, they have created so much opportunity for artists, you know, where you can really be in a country town in the middle of Victoria and write one fucking song and then you're playing it like beyond the valley. You know what I mean? Like it can happen. But with that as well, there is also a huge nepotism culture in Australia where there are so many guys, once again, I'm not going to say it on the podcast, so many bands and rappers and singers that perform at these festivals every year that you go, oh, well, yeah, did you know that their dad actually produced for Cold Chisel in the 80s? Oh, did you know their dad was a session guitarist? Like, they have ways into the industry, and that has become so prevalent now that there are people that do have that kind of nepotism factor, which is cool. Work your stuff. At the end of the day, if it works, it works.
Yeah, it's like the life lottery sort of thing.
Exactly, yeah. You just got to deal with the cards that you've got, bro, and like, sometimes those cards are easier, but karma will get you. You know, I
mean, I feel like you also got to be like, I don't think either of us are in a position of nepotism. But like,
absolutely not.
But just saying, yeah, I feel like you can also see who the ones that are like, oh yeah, I've got this sort of I've got this backing, but I'm also like, it's like I didn't really have a choice, I did it. But then some people are like, you know, going to be that extra douchebag. It's like, yeah, my dad or my mum are these people, and then they're like just sort of like get away from me. And then some people that are like it wasn't my choice. I sort of was born into this.
I think like the most like honorable thing is when like someone does have nepotism connections like that, but they do not mention it at all, and not in a way where it's like, oh, I can't let anyone know that I've got this, but it's like they don't use it to their advantage. It's like, oh yeah,
It comes up in conversation.
yeah, it's like, oh yeah, my uncle was like an artist manager like in the 80s, and he knows all these guys, but I know that I'm not there yet. You know what I mean? Like that's when I'm like, whoa, like that's like you're switched on. You know what I mean? There's nothing worse than someone just being like, yeah, my dad did this, so I'm sick by proxy. It's like, okay, dude, like whatever.
Yeah. Well, I think this has been a very long episode.
Dude, I'm so sorry. I can just talk and talk and talk.
That's the thing. I think it's getting late. It's Saturday night. He's playing at fucking basement in
I'm playing in like
4 hours.
5 hours or something. Yeah.
But I'm always welcoming guests back onto the podcast. So I know we can talk for ages, and I'm sure we will. But we have to.
Next time I come down, get me back on. We'll go for another 3 hours, bro. Straight up.
We'll go on that Joe Rogan thing. Of like
Straight up.
5 hour episodes. I wish time allowed for that, and I wish my laptop actually had the capacity to.
We've already run out of storage once this interview. I ain't gonna make you do it again.
I wish my SD carding laptop had the capacity to go for 5 hours, and I wish I had the time for it, but not today. One day we'll hit the 5 hour mark for episode.
Definitely.
I think you're a front runner for that episode.
Bro, thank you. Episode 100. We'll do a live stream marathon.
5 hours.
Chat, let us know what you want to see in episode 100 of Behind the Tune.
Yeah, well, obviously, guys, thanks for sticking around. If you have stuck around to this point, thank you to Owie for coming on.
Thank you for having me, man.
That's all right.
It's been very fun.
But now we must say goodbye. Hopefully, you guys enjoy the conversation. Again, sound like a broken record, but make sure you like, subscribe, share everywhere, and rate us on Spotify because that actually helps a lot. Anyways, take care, guys. See you later.